In the bustling studios of ITV's long-running daytime talk show Loose Women, the atmosphere crackled with the usual mix of lively banter and unexpected revelations as the panel prepared for another episode filled with celebrity guests and hot topics of the day. Miriam Margolyes, the celebrated actress known for her roles in Harry Potter and Call the Midwife, arrived as a guest to promote her latest memoir, O Miriam, a collection of candid stories from her extraordinary life. The panel that day consisted of host Kay Adams alongside regulars Denise Welch, Olivia Attwood-Dack and Nadia Sawalha, all of whom were eager to dive into Miriam's sharp-witted observations and no-holds-barred honesty. As the cameras rolled and the audience settled in, Miriam wasted no time in captivating everyone with her trademark frankness, explaining that she had written the book primarily because the publishers had paid her a substantial sum. This admission drew laughter from the studio, but it was only the beginning of what would become a memorable and ultimately explosive appearance. Kay Adams pressed further, asking if money could tempt Miriam into doing anything at all, prompting a response that would send shockwaves through the production. Miriam, without missing a beat, delivered a profane remark about her limits involving something highly inappropriate, which was immediately bleeped by the censors, yet still registered clearly enough to stun the panel into a mixture of gasps and nervous chuckles. Denise Welch, who had been listening intently, clasped her hands over her mouth in visible shock, her eyes wide as she processed the raw language that had just filled the air. The moment hung heavy as Miriam, realizing the impact of her words, quickly followed up by asking if she was allowed to say such things, and then rephrasing it in a slightly more polite but still blunt manner about not consuming certain substances. What started as light-hearted promotion of a book was rapidly transforming into something far more intense as underlying tensions between the guest and one particular panelist began to surface in the charged environment of live television. Denise Welch, a veteran of the show with years of experience navigating heated discussions, found herself particularly unsettled by Miriam's unfiltered approach and began to interject with comments that revealed her discomfort with the direction the conversation was taking. As the discussion shifted toward personal boundaries and the ethics of public personas, Denise challenged Miriam on the appropriateness of such language in a daytime slot watched by families across the country, arguing that while honesty was valued, there had to be some consideration for the audience and the show's reputation. Miriam, known for her fierce independence and refusal to soft-pedal her views, pushed back immediately, insisting that authenticity should never be compromised for the sake of polite society, and that her career had been built on speaking truths that others preferred to ignore. The exchange grew more pointed as Denise referenced past instances where guests had overstepped and caused problems for the program, while Miriam countered by pointing out the hypocrisy of a show that thrived on controversy yet recoiled when it became too real. Voices rose in the studio, the audience shifting uncomfortably in their seats as the other panelists attempted to mediate but found themselves caught in the crossfire of two strong personalities unwilling to yield ground. Kay Adams tried to steer the talk back to the memoir, but the confrontation had gained momentum, with Denise accusing Miriam of deliberately seeking shock value at the expense of meaningful dialogue, and Miriam retorting that Denise's own history of outspoken moments made her criticism ring hollow. Producers in the control room watched with growing concern as the live feed continued uninterrupted, the bleep language from earlier already generating internal alerts. What had been intended as a promotional segment was now a full-blown clash of wills, with personal barbs flying and the professional facade of the show beginning to crack under the pressure of unscripted emotion and differing philosophies on free speech and entertainment. The confrontation escalated further when Miriam delved into anecdotes from her life that touched on themes of aging, sexuality and societal expectations, prompting Denise to express strong disagreement with the way these topics were being framed for a broad audience. Denise argued that certain stories, while perhaps true in Miriam's experience, crossed lines that could alienate viewers or invite regulatory scrutiny from bodies like Ofcom, which had previously fielded complaints about the show's content. Miriam dismissed these concerns as overly cautious and reflective of a culture that preferred sanitized narratives over genuine human experiences, insisting that her memoir's success proved audiences craved the unvarnished truth. The back and forth became increasingly personal, with Denise questioning whether Miriam's fame allowed her a free pass that others would not receive, and Miriam firing back that Denise's longevity on Loose Women had itself been sustained by embracing drama and debate rather than avoiding it. Studio lights seemed to intensify the heat of the moment as the panel divided in their reactions, some leaning toward supporting Denise's call for restraint while others appreciated Miriam's boldness. Audience members could be heard murmuring among themselves, some laughing at the sheer intensity, others looking on with concern as the argument showed no signs of cooling. Behind the scenes, producers conferred urgently about whether to cut to a commercial break or intervene more directly, but the live nature of the broadcast left limited options. Miriam continued to hold her ground, recounting how she had faced similar pushback throughout her career yet never backed down from expressing herself fully, and Denise matched her energy, declaring that the show had standards that even high-profile guests needed to respect. The air in the studio thickened with unresolved tension, setting the stage for a breaking point that would redefine the episode and leave lasting impressions on everyone involved. As the heated exchange reached its peak, Miriam made a pointed remark about the artificiality of daytime television formats and the way panelists sometimes performed outrage for ratings, which Denise took as a direct slight against her and the entire Loose Women team. Denise rose slightly in her seat, her voice rising as she defended the authenticity of the program and the genuine bonds among the women who appeared on it, accusing Miriam of misunderstanding the show's purpose and using her platform to undermine it. Miriam, unfazed by the intensity, leaned forward and delivered a sharp retort about the difference between manufactured conflict and real discourse, suggesting that the panel's reactions often prioritized spectacle over substance. The other panelists, including Olivia and Nadia, attempted once more to de-escalate, but their efforts only seemed to fuel the fire as both Miriam and Denise talked over them, determined to have the final word. Producers finally made the decision to intervene more forcefully, signaling for a cut to break while security personnel hovered near the edges of the set in case the verbal sparring turned physical, though it remained purely confrontational in nature. During the commercial interruption, heated words continued off-camera, with Denise expressing frustration that a guest had derailed the planned segment so thoroughly and Miriam standing by her right to speak freely without censorship beyond the necessary bleeps. When the show returned, the atmosphere remained strained and it became clear that the production team had decided the appearance could not continue in its current form. Kay Adams announced with a carefully measured tone that they would be moving on to other topics and thanking Miriam for her time, effectively signaling the end of the guest segment earlier than scheduled. The decision to remove Miriam from the remainder of the broadcast was framed as a necessary step to restore order, but it carried the unmistakable weight of a public ejection following the unresolved clash. In the aftermath of Miriam being escorted from the active panel discussion, the remaining Loose Women continued with a sense of unease, addressing viewer reactions that were already flooding social media platforms with divided opinions on the incident. Some fans praised Miriam for her unapologetic honesty and criticized Denise for what they saw as an overreaction, while others sided with Denise, arguing that live television required certain boundaries to maintain professionalism and audience trust. Denise herself appeared composed yet visibly affected as she reflected on the confrontation, noting that while she respected Miriam's career, the moment had highlighted ongoing challenges in balancing free expression with the responsibilities of daytime broadcasting. The show proceeded with alternative segments, but the energy had shifted permanently for that episode, the earlier clash lingering like an unresolved chord. Behind-the-scenes reports emerged of producers reviewing the footage carefully to assess potential complaints and ensure compliance with broadcasting standards, while also considering how to handle future high-profile guests known for their unpredictability. Miriam later addressed the situation in statements, emphasizing that she had no regrets about speaking her mind and that the reaction only confirmed her views on the constraints of mainstream media. Denise, for her part, maintained that the decision to conclude the segment was about protecting the show's integrity rather than personal animosity, though the public narrative quickly framed it as a dramatic kicking off following the heated exchange. Media outlets picked up the story, amplifying the confrontation and the subsequent removal, turning what began as a book promotion into a major talking point about celebrity clashes on live television. The incident underscored the fine line Loose Women walked between encouraging candid conversation and managing the fallout when those conversations became too combustible for the format. Looking back on the entire sequence of events, the confrontation between Miriam Margolyes and Denise Welch and the resulting decision to remove Miriam from the Loose Women episode served as a vivid illustration of the complexities inherent in live unscripted television. It highlighted how quickly promotional appearances can spiral into deeper conflicts when strong personalities with differing approaches to public discourse collide under the pressure of rolling cameras and expectant audiences. The episode became a reference point in discussions about the limits of free speech in entertainment, the role of panel shows in amplifying or containing controversy, and the personal toll such moments can take on those involved. Viewers continued to debate the merits of each side long after the broadcast ended, some arguing that Miriam's ejection was an overreach that stifled authentic voices, while others contended it was a justified response to maintain the show's viability. For Denise Welch, the experience reinforced her commitment to the program and its standards, even as it invited scrutiny of her own style of engagement. For Miriam Margolyes, it added another chapter to her reputation as an artist who refuses to dilute her truth for the comfort of others. The Loose Women team moved forward with subsequent episodes, but the memory of that particular confrontation lingered as a reminder of how fragile the balance of lively debate can be when emotions run high and boundaries are tested in real time. Ultimately, the incident enriched the cultural conversation around celebrity authenticity and media responsibility, leaving an indelible mark on the show's history and the careers of those who participated in the unforgettable clash.